Don in London, hello. It's June 13th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be whatever you wanted me to be, trying to deal with life as best I could. And part of my way of dealing with it was what I learned along the way from others around me, including my father, who also was an alcoholic. Although I really can't say that. He would have had to say it, but he's no longer with us, so he can't. But he certainly had all the traits that I've got, or maybe I just inherited them. Anyway, for me, drinking was about taking the edge off. Celebrations, and also sadness as well. So I drank when I was celebrating and felt happy, joyful. I also drank when I felt miserable and desolate. And I didn't realise that not only can alcohol be classified as a poison if we take too much of it, it is in fact a depressant. So depressing ourselves with drink when we're happy seems an odd thing to do, but I wonder how happy I really was. And I suppose it comes down to how we define happiness. And for me these days it probably falls into three areas of I suppose attributes we might have, which is our spiritual outlook, our emotional outlook, and our physical well-being. So if I'm dealing with those three attributes or measurements of how I am, emotionally, spiritually and physically, I can say a day at a time I'm making a bit of progress spiritually and emotionally, and I'm managing physically some other ailments that I got along the way, which were not based on lifestyle, funnily enough. Although I suspect the emotional part, where I had clinical depression, which has been there forever, tended to make me I suppose utilise drink as a form of self-medication when life felt awful, and it went on for months without any sort of reason behind it, or fear was just lurking under the surface. So it's very difficult sometimes to work out exactly what is wrong with it. Is it depression? Is it drinking too much? Is it this or is it that? And there comes a point when an alcoholic when not in recovery, cannot stop drinking, and it's either binging or cross-addicting maybe to other behaviours as well. So if I wasn't drinking, I was working. If I wasn't drinking or working, I was at the gym. If I wasn't drinking or working or at the gym, I was probably involved in a relationship and trying to be perfect, and absolutely never ever so. So these days I'm very lucky because I go to a fellowship which helps me. So what helped me get into recovery first and foremost was my family, who had difficult decisions to make about how to support a person who cannot stop drinking. And the answer became clear: don't involve yourself emotionally, because if you do, I'll drag you down too. So it was very hard, but I have to say I owe a debt of gratitude to my brother, my sister and my mother, who helped me get through some of those very, very dark times, simply by being there either physically or at the end of a telephone, or just a bit of encouragement to take another stab at trying to be sober. So I'm a few years in now to being in a place of what might be called recovery, daily recovery. It is only one day at a time. Any longer time scale and we start to get into fiction or fantasy, or at least I can. So wishfulness and trying to make it so doesn't seem to work with me. All I need to do is look at life as it is and base my life on choices which are available in the moment, knowing what I can do and cannot do. And AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is absolutely integral for me having sobriety daily, and I go to meetings as regularly as I can. So meetings of AA are the starting point, or were the starting point. Having got to a place where I couldn't stop, AA meetings started to make sense after a long, long period of denial. And in fact, before I got to denial, there was just pure ignorance in me about my drinking situation. So it's been a long, long journey to recovery. And then suddenly, a few years along, life seems to just melt away, and life just keeps on going. It doesn't mean it's always good or bad, it just means that life is happening. And I'm glad. I was going to go to there's an event in London called the World Naked Bike Ride. So it's London's turn today, where a bunch of cyclists who are against oil pollution suggest, look at us, because we're taking the bike out and we're doing something to make a point, a demonstration. And I took some pictures a couple of years ago, which I quite enjoyed doing because it was very funny. And I thought it was more important actually to go and say hello to my sister actually this afternoon. Seemed more appropriate, and to do some family stuff. So I missed out, and it's sunny as well. So unfortunately, I won't have any photos to show on this occasion, but that's okay. Life is life. Anyway, Alcoholics Anonymous. I go to meetings most days, and it keeps me on a level playing field. AA. This preamble is shared at every meeting, and it goes like this. At the start of every meeting, just in case you don't know why people go, or it slows me into the moment of now. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who've shared their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy. It neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I don't speak for AA, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people, quite capable of speaking for themselves wherever they choose to. So anonymity is integral to the fellowship, so that people can find their spiritual core. And anonymity affords people the opportunity to speak the truth without fear or hindrance of being judged. Although some of us in our early days do judge very harshly. My God, how did they do those things? And the answer is, well, what were we doing? We're better off concentrating on our own patch and how we actually develop emotional, spiritual and physical well-being, or as best it can be. And there are steps, 12 steps. There's one where it's suggesting in step 2 that we can be restored to sanity. Some of us are very questionable whether I question how sane I was, and based on my life experiences, yes, there were lots of good sane things done, but overall, where was it headed? And these questions come up a lot. So what I've learned now, it's in the journey, not the destination. And depression, which is one of the things I have, clinical depression, can actually set us off on a path of, what's it all about and why are we here? Is it all worth it? All those things. And it's tragic. It's part of grieving for something that maybe has yet to happen. So it's not easy being in recovery, but then again, it's not easy being a human being and being alive. So with a bit of luck and a bit of dedication and a bit of application, AA works for me. It may work for you or not. It's not my business. I'm just showing how fellowships helps me. And there's daily literature like this, the daily reflections. And I also apologise for this being a bit late. Late in the day because I had to go have my eyes tested. I think I ought to have my senses tested from time to time. But June 13th. June is about step 6, having our defects removed, or rather understanding our areas of development around not being so fearful, not having to put a brave face on, and not utilising our ego. So developing courage, faith and confidence, which is part of step 7. And it says here, Living Amends for June 13th. Years of living with an alcoholic is almost sure to make any wife or child neurotic. The entire family is to some extent ill, and that mental illness that's in the person who's drinking impacts heavily on everybody around them because it's beyond control. It cannot be controlled. So it says then, it is important for me to realise that as an alcoholic I not only hurt myself but also those around me. Making amends to my family and to the families of alcoholics still suffering will always be important. Understanding the havoc I created trying to repair the destruction will be a lifelong endeavour. The example of my sobriety may give others hope and faith to help themselves. And I think that's what I do here. I try to do my best to share lightly the good of life, and sometimes the abject sadness too. We are very complex creatures as human beings, susceptible to anything and everything. So when I come to understand via the serenity prayer, acceptance, which goes like this: God, or in good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is simply in one day. And if I can see my sister, have my eyes tested and enjoy some sunshine, maybe it is just as it may be today.